Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me for the Chapter 1 A Course in Miracles summary. I'm really excited to do this series. I'm going to go through all the chapters. I'm about halfway through reading the book myself, and as I'm going through it, I thought this is so powerful. The teachings in here are so wonderful. Even for my own sake, I like to do a summary, but it's also hopefully to reach those people that may be a little intimidated by the book. It's a pretty big book, and maybe can get a little bit out of this, and hopefully encourages you to read the full text because I just think it's so powerful. For my own personal story, these teachings have really helped me heal my physical ailments and mental as well. It's still a journey I am on, but I believe these teachings will bring and can bring healing. And so it's really powerful. Anyway, so hopefully you really enjoy this. And here we go. We'll get right into the summary. So, Course in Miracles summary, chapter 1. The first chapter starts with 7 subsections here, and you can read them yourself. The first one's really interesting because it's the principle of miracles, where it's just statements. I think there's over 50 of them that describe what the principle of a miracle is, and it's just really interesting from Jesus's perspective, right? So we're going to go through the top 5 takeaways, top 5 key takeaways from chapter 1, and actually they are in order of significance, so least significant to most, but they're all significant, doesn't really matter. So the first key takeaway here is miracles are habits and expressions of love. Miracles are natural expressions of love and are meant to be habitual once we train our minds to think with love instead of fear. And I just think this points to the first fact here that Jesus is talking that miracles are really expressions of love. And so if you think of a miracle as something else, like it's of some divine intervention of something happening, and just he's saying it's really just a expression of love in one form, which is quite beautiful. Okay, key takeaway number 2. Time is an illusion, and miracles collapse it. Miracles don't follow chronological order. They shorten the need for time by healing cause and effect simultaneously. So it's so interesting here. In chapter 1, Jesus talks about time quite a bit, and this is really interesting principle because it's saying that once you heal something, it shortens the need for time because whatever happened in the past is healed in the future, and vice versa, and it happens at the same time. So time doesn't really exist in that regard. And so that's just an interesting takeaway. So we'll go on to number 3. The body is not the source of healing. The body is neutral and is not the healer. The mind is. All true healing is of the mind, and the miracle corrects perception to allow healing. So this is a really great statement to show that Jesus' teaching is anyways that healing starts in the mind. And that's my personal experience as well. Once it gets to the body, it's already something that's seated in the mind. It's already started in the mind. And so for true root cause healing, you have to go back to the mind and change those perceptions, correct those perceptions, and the body will follow suit. And that's exactly what I have experienced. So we'll go on to number 4. Miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary. While everyone is entitled to miracles, we must clear our minds of ego-based thoughts in order to allow the miracle to work through us. So the interesting thing here is with disease and illness, what I find is usually it happens to those individuals where the ego has taken control. And that's why I believe Jesus is pointing to the fact here that purification is necessary. It doesn't mean necessarily like a religious overtone sense of purification, but more so purifying our thoughts, having more loving thoughts and less ego-based thoughts. And that's in that kind of purification. And so the last but not least, number 5, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. This is the core principle. All miracles are equally powerful because they reflect the same shift from fear to love. The belief that some are harder than others comes from the ego and is false. So this is one of the most famous quotes in the Course in Miracles, if I could say that. It's well known. And it's really beautiful because it's just showing the fact that yeah, all shifts from fear to love are miraculous, and they're beautiful, and they're all equally as powerful. Um, and so that's something to consider in our own lives. It doesn't have to be some crazy grandstand change in our lives, but any change where we can shift ourselves from fear to love is a miracle, and we're creating that, and it's beautiful. So those are the 5 key takeaways from chapter 1. Now, I'd just like to go through some of my personal favorite quotes from chapter 1 that really strung a chord with me and resonated with myself, and I'll just like to explain them a little bit and see if they resonate with you guys. And you'll have to go through chapter 1 yourself. And there's so many in here. I had to pare it down, and it's hard to pare it down. But anyways, let's go through these. My favorite quotes, chapter 1 here. So a lot of my favorite quotes here come from the principles in this first subsection. So principle number 8, miracles are healing because they supply a lack. They are performed by those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. So I think this principle is pretty cool. It's showing the fact that a lot of people that need healing feel like they have a lack in themselves of something. And anyways, a miracle that we can help others with is when we can give more than we have, or a shift in perspective to that person giving love. And when we have more love, the proof of having is giving, and we have love, we can give it. And hopefully it get to the person that has less, and they can see it and fill the next person's cup up, and so on. So anyways, principle number 9, miracles are a kind of exchange, like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense. The exchange reverses the physical laws. They bring more love to the giver and the receiver. So I just thought this was so interesting, because I believe what Jesus is talking about here in the physical laws is the law of conservation of energy, which states that energy cannot be created or destroyed in a closed system. And so that's the physical principle we live in today. And he's saying that if you give love, the receiver, the giver and the receiver both receive it and get love. So you're getting a 2-for-1. One person is giving and 2 people are receiving, and it breaks the physical laws of always having to have an equal exchange of give and take. So that's quite beautiful. Principle number 15, each day should be devoted to miracles. The purpose of time is to enable you to learn how to use time constructively. It is thus a teaching device and a means to an end. Time will cease when it is no longer useful in facilitating learning. I thought this was a beautiful quote here regarding time and the purpose of time. And I'd never really thought to the purpose of time as a teaching device. And it really made me think, and I thought it was really cool, and it makes a lot of sense. And even if you go back into your life and you think of how your perspective changed as you get older, it's interesting. And so I find that the things that don't change as you get older, the principles that don't change, are the perspectives that are always true, even when you're younger to older, and we'll get into that in the next section here. Those are the truths to live by. Everything else changes, and really the only one truth that doesn't ever change is love. And so that's the one truth that I think Jesus is pointing to here, that we should be living by. Anyways, there's a couple more quotes here. Please bear with me. And so they're so good. Principle number 24, miracles enable you to heal the sick and raise the dead because you made sickness and death yourself, and can therefore abolish both. You are a miracle capable of creating in its likeness of your creator. Everything else is your own nightmare and does not exist. Only the creations of light are real. So I just thought it was really interesting how powerful your mind is, and that Jesus is pointing to the fact that you can heal the sick and raise the dead. You made it both yourself. And so you really be careful of our thoughts and what we're thinking. And I fully don't believe I understand this quote, but it's just I know it is powerful. And it's showing the power of your mind. So principle number 40, the miracle acknowledges everyone as your brother and mine. And I think this is so interesting because when we say brother, like in terms of every other human being on the planet is someone who is related to us in some way or another. They are another human being, and at a minimum level, and we need to respect them and treat them as our brothers. And the funny thing is, when you do that, it feels good for you, and you start respecting and treating yourself better. And so it's kind of like how you treat others is how you treat yourself, and I believe that's why the principle's there. And also, if you think about if we were all to live in heaven one day, how would that be possible? Well, here's a rule that would make it so. Okay, last few quotes here, and these are the really big ones for me in this chapter, really monumentous quotes here. So the first one is Jesus is speaking of the golden rule. The golden rule we've all heard as children, but I think it's a good reminder, and it's still the golden rule, and it's one of those things I was talking about that's true. It will always be true, and I don't think there's any way to argue around it. But here's the golden rule. So the golden rule asks you to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This means that the perception of both must be accurate. The golden rule is a rule for appropriate behavior. You cannot behave appropriately unless you perceive correctly. So on a personal note, this applies down to the level of thought. But the golden rule is, treat others how you want to be treated, and we've all learned that in like preschool. And it's a great rule. And I'm just suggesting that let's bring this all the way down to the level of thought. So we must bless people. We must wish them well. We must, when people falter, make mistakes, we help them. We don't judge them, and those type of things. And it will then play out into physical reality. So you have to really study this down to the level of thought, in my perspective, from my opinion, and from my experience. And the last one here, I believe Jesus gives his mission statement right here in chapter 1. It's so cool. I'll read it to you, and then I'll do a little explaining. But it's right in chapter 1, subsection 3, the atonement and miracles. So here's what Jesus says. I am in charge of the process of atonement, which I undertook to begin when you offer a miracle to which I undertook to begin. When you offer a miracle to any of my brothers, you do it to yourself and me. The reason you come before me is that I do not need miracles for my own atonement, but I stand at the end in case you fail temporarily. My part in the atonement is the canceling out of all errors that you could not otherwise correct. When you have been restored to the recognition of your original state, you naturally become part of the atonement yourself. So this is so cool. I think this is Jesus' mission statement. He is basically suggesting here that when you offer a miracle to a brother or anyone else, you're also offering it to yourself and Jesus. Jesus takes part in that. He takes joy in that as well, which is really cool. He witnesses that, I suppose. And the neat thing is, for all healing, I believe we need someone that always is, hopefully be our parents, but somebody who believes in us, someone who sees us as whole, as seeing us as not broken, sees us as, lovable. And if we can understand someone and sees that in us, we can see it in ourselves. And so if there's no one else in this world that can do that for you, at the very least, or not at least, but Jesus is the person that can do that for you. He's suggesting that you can rely on him, and he'll give you that perspective, and it'll allow you to heal yourself. He's allowing you to heal yourself. And I just think that's so beautiful. And once you restore yourself to the original state, once you see yourself as healed, and once you see yourself as Jesus' perspective, as lovable, as loved, and unconditional loved, you will become part of that atonement. You'll join him in his mission, really enjoy and help others. And so I'll leave it at that, guys. I think chapter 1, there's so many good quotes in there. It's so beautiful. Thank you for joining me, and I really hope this is helps you in some small way in your healing journey. And I really encourage you to read the book, and much love to you all. Take care. Bye.